Welcome to Believe the Hope, the podcast where inspiration meets reality. Join us as we delve into stories of resilience, triumph, and the relentless pursuit of hope. Whether you're seeking encouragement or simply a reminder of the power within us all, this podcast is your guide. From personal journeys to expert insights, we explore what it means to believe in hope against all odds. Get ready to be inspired, uplifted, and empowered. This is Believe the Hope.
I think one of the most recent struggles that my husband and I endured was we had 5 pregnancy losses, multiple failed IVF rounds, and we are recently in the process of adopting our son. And, our baby has been with us since day one, basically. I think about all the hurdles that got us to that place, all the things that we're still dealing with. And it is a very lonely journey because it's a very unique journey in the sense. And it affects everything, every day, every decision that we've made at this point. I mean, being a parent, regardless, you're making decisions every day that can change the life of your child, right? I think those are moments that I'm still in it, but it's been the fact that I can say where I am now, as opposed to a year ago, I'm glad family and friends kept me hopeful, because there was many times where I'm like, I'm done. Like, this is way too hard.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Paul Nottoli, to the Believe the Hope podcast, and we are recording inside SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles. I'm here with Natalie
Torres
Haddad. I can't roll the R. I wanted to say it the way she says it because it sounds great. So, Natalie, go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit, explain what you do and how you give hope to others.
Well, first of all, I think when I meet people like yourself, that it's beautiful to find. I'm always searching for how I could be more hopeful, because there's a lot of times where I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I here? What's my purpose? And I've been teaching financial literacy now for almost 20 years. And what that really means for me is not only giving people education around financial literacy, but being empowered by changing their mindset on how they can take control of their finances, how they can control just maybe their upbringings are a little different. So hope for me is sometimes just having not only the extra money in your bank account to pay the necessities, but really to be able to change our communities.
Besides the financial literacy, what else does hope mean to you personally?
Personally, hope means possibilities, opportunities. I think one of my purposes when I started teaching it is because I didn't want to teach people like just to make money. I wanted them to feel secure and feel some safety, some satisfaction that they can do what they needed to do, not necessarily live paycheck to paycheck, but to be able to fund the things that they want, right? If they want to have a nonprofit, if they want to contribute more to their churches, if they want to contribute to, meaningful organizations, you have to have the money to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so hope for me, I think it means the opportunities to do that for future possibilities, and just giving us a better outlet, because there's many times where I definitely feel hopeless. So I think that's kind of a little nutshell on it.
Everybody I interview always has a version of that, of opportunities, future. They can see a better self. Their future self is better than when the situation that they're in. I've always described it as it gives people the permission to move forward to something greater. So every definition is very similar to what you say on that. What I also like to do is, because everyone is in different parts of their life and different parts of maybe hopelessness, despair, or struggle, is I like to have people, my guests, maybe share an example where they didn't necessarily have a lot of hope. They were in some trials, and how they used hope to, or what did they lean on for that hope to come out of that.
I get emotional just thinking about that, because I was just I was recently listening to a podcast and just thinking about where I am in life. I think because towards the end of the year, you start reflecting on where you are, right? Just kind of like, whoa, what have I overcome? What am I still dealing with? And I think one of the most recent struggles that my husband and I endured was we had 5 pregnancy losses, multiple failed IVF rounds, and we are recently in the process of adopting our son. And, our baby has been with us since day one, basically. And I think about all the hurdles that got us to that place, all the things that we're still dealing with. And it is a very lonely journey because it's a very unique journey in the sense. Um, and it affects everything every day, every decision that we've made at this point. I mean, being a parent, regardless, you're making decisions every day that can change the life of your child, right? But more importantly, when it's also you're being watched by multiple agencies, your own agency, and having to deal and advocate for your child to make sure they get everything they need and beyond. I think those are moments that I'm still in it, but it's been the fact that I can say where I am now as opposed to a year ago. I'm glad family and friends kept me hopeful because there was many times where I'm like, I'm done. Like, this is way too hard. And so, when this is coming up, and I know October is a pregnancy and infant awareness loss.
Okay.
And so that's something, a taboo subject to talk about, but it's beautiful to connect with people that are spreading hope. And for me, it's been very impactful to know that there is hope out there. Yeah.
I mean, I have some friends and stuff that are sharing their stories of having miscarriages and different things and how hard it is and how people don't understand not just the emotional toll of the loss, but how it affects you just like the physical and all this stuff that actually happens and changes to be while you're being a mother, while you're pregnant, everything like that. And I never thought about it. And I don't think it gets talked about a lot because I feel like there's maybe some, I don't know the lack of words,
Like
shame or guilt to that like, oh, who am I? Because I couldn't even have success, embarrassment.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. That's why I share these stories, because there may be someone in a situation that had gone through that and they don't know how to talk about it. They don't know how to share it. They may be having some relationship problems because of it, because of the pain, hurt, and everything.
It brings all the. I'm lucky that I have a great partner. My husband and I have been together almost 12 years now, celebrating next month, and I think about the fact that we were in a good place and how I see pregnancy loss is like one of the most intimate deaths a person or couple can experience, and then having to if you don't have the right person with you, I mean, that can easily, and I can see why a lot of couples don't make it through. But you're right, it's kind of like there's just so many taboos or very difficult subjects to talk about. But you're right, when I hear people talk about it brings me hope, where I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one that went through that, or it's possible to be on the other side of the tunnel when you think that is not an option.
So congrats on all your journey on that.
He's brought us a lot of hope, I'll tell you that. I mean, he's changed our lives in such an amazing way.
I think it's also important that gets brought up a lot within me in my interviews and my podcast and my guests is that there's a sense of community. There's someone that they can lean on, whether it's a partner, a friend, whatever church. There's always some form of community, and usually that helps. More hope into life, because oftentimes we don't see the out. We know we want to be on the other side, but we can't see the way out. And you need somebody speaking that light into your life and the blessings into your life. And you also have to be willing to receive it, because if you're not, then
it just goes right over. And I think there were moments and times where I was hearing people trying to be hopeful for me, and I just didn't want to hear it. And it's kind of like when you're there and you're like, okay, I look back, and even now I find myself thinking, like you said, community. I look back at my family and friends that were really there for me during those times and say, thank you for not giving up on me when I was ready to give up. And you just said it. It's being able to find not just the community, but the light that we don't get to see. And ironically, my unborn child, my daughter, would have been Esperanza, which is hope in Spanish. And so I think about kind of those things, about one of those things can get us through. And when it comes to financial literacy, when it comes to podcasting too, like, we're hopeful that people take something away with them. And I'm sure they will.
I'm hoping people will listen to this and get something out of it. Yeah, for sure. That's why we're spreading the message.
And your energy is great. I think that's the best part. It made me feel comfortable to talk about something so difficult.
Good. How do listeners spread more hope in their own lives as well as in their communities? What do you think how does that?
Sharing, vulnerability, I think, is a big key. Being open to receiving, like you said, listening to people's experiences, take the advice that you want to take. And I think when it comes to having this one-on-one with someone, connecting, like today too, I was thinking, I'm a mom, I'm the mom life right now. And so, some days I'm like, it's just my husband and I that I see today, and the fact that I'm like, oh, I'm connecting with someone else that has a great message, that has an audience of people that are looking for hope. Because I mean, today I feel great because I'm meeting wonderful people like you, and we're having this amazing experience in an incredible venue. But I also think of like, these are the days that I look forward to, and it reminds me that, okay, tomorrow might be hard, but guess what? There'll be beautiful days too. So thank you. Yeah, and I thank you for having me on here too.
Awesome. And yeah, I was just listening to something the other day, and they were saying words have the power to either build or destroy. So they actually matter. Messages have the power to build and destroy, which is why I started this podcast. I want to have more positivity be put out there. And if maybe right now you don't maybe have a community or somebody you're leaning on, and maybe this podcast and Natalie's message gave you that hope because you heard it from you stumbled upon this, and it gave you that hope to just get through another day or just fight another hour or whatnot. And you also have to be ready to, when someone's speaking blessing to your life, you also have to be ready to accept it and willing to change, because we're told a lot of things in our lives that may not be true or they're made up, and we take that on as fact. And and so some of that shame and guilt that we carry are also you don't need to carry that.
There's a quote that you just reminded me of regarding hope. It was, I'm gonna butcher it, but it was just that where start somewhere, and if you think you're gonna fail, you keep doing it. And I always think about like when I started podcasting 9 years ago, it was like, oh, we had 30 listeners, and then it's like it grew to 100,000 downloads. And you're just like, you just never know who that message is gonna touch, right? And I think you just said it perfectly, that I think we need to be able to share and connect with people.
Is there anything else you'd like to add and discuss?
I think my hope for people is to not give up, and to continue looking and searching for podcasts like these that'll bring you up and help you understand that you're not alone in the process. That's what hope is continuing having that faith that you will have a better day.
How do people connect with you more to learn more about your financial literacy as well as your podcast and plug into all things Natalie?
Yes. All my social media is Fin Savvy Latina, FISAVVY Latina. And
I love how she pronounced. I wish I could do that. I don't have that. I don't have that nice.
The podcast you'll practice it. I feel like I got it. It's our next interview, right? When
you can't roll my R's like that. It's beautiful. Anyway, sorry.
It'll be for you. You can say my name for me.
Okay. Okay, I'll practice.
Thank you.
So.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And go ahead and say that one more time. So
it's Fin Savvy Latina.
Fin Savvy Latina.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie, for being on the podcast and spreading more hope and joy to the world. And we'll bring you another episode here at SoFi Stadium of the Believe the Hope podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Believe the Hope podcast. And if you want to be part of the movement and spread more hope, positivity, and inspiration into the world, make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends and family. And until next time, we'll bring you another episode of the Believe the Hope podcast.